Welcome to the visual portion of Seeing Anthropology, an introduction to cultural anthropology through film, published by Allen and Bacon. I'm Carl Hyder, your author. The book itself has 17 chapters, and each chapter is built around one or two ethnographic films, chosen because, one, they're good films, and two, they're particularly illustrative of the subject of that chapter. The original films range in length considerably, from 15 or 20 minutes to an hour and a half or 2 hours. I hope you'll be able to see and study each of the films in their totality. But here on these two videotapes, we have short 10-minute clips from each film. You can watch the clips as you read the chapter, and you'll see in each chapter there is a section introducing the culture of the film, a little bit about the film itself, and some setup questions to help you start thinking about the film, to start thinking about what's in the film. The films are, well, they'll be interesting, fun to watch, but they're not merely entertainment. You can study the films just as you study a chapter in the text. You'll quickly see how rich the films are, how much information there is, and you'll quickly go beyond the setup questions themselves. Okay, let's take a look.
He arrived at a crucial time. Farmers were under greater pressure than ever before. Development organizations were investing large amounts in the island to improve the rice yield and increase exports. The Green Revolution that had swept across Asia following its successful results in the 1960s had arrived. It was hoped that techniques developed in research stations across Southeast Asia would improve Balinese productivity even further. Outside developers built new dams, new canals, changed the cropping patterns, brought in new rice varieties, and trained large numbers of agricultural experts to spread the new techniques. They expected the economy to boom.
Put the pressure on after you put water on?
But by the time Steve Lansing arrived, this early optimism had faded, and a new and worrisome situation had arisen. Somehow, miracle rice had started to produce miracle pests. Wherever new rice was planted, there were invasions of insects and disease. Insecticides were brought in to cope with them, yet for the first time, there was a notable decline in soil fertility. Something was going seriously wrong. Steve was convinced that foreign experts had spent too little time studying the social and ecological dimensions of the traditional irrigation systems before forging ahead with the new development projects. He began recording his findings on film in 1984.
In most countries, irrigation is managed by the state, but in Bali, it's organized by networks of water temples. In other words, for the Balinese, the whole business of irrigation is a religious matter, outside of politics. I'm standing at the Master Water Temple, Ulandanau Batur, which controls irrigation for 37 Balinese rivers. The power of the temple is not based on force, but religious faith, the idea that water is a gift from a goddess and must be shared.
The largest natural reservoir of water on Bali is the huge volcanic crater lake on Mount Batur. Overlooking the lake is the supreme temple to the water goddess, Dewi Danu. The Balinese believe that irrigation water is a gift from the goddess. Steve discovered something that no Western scientist had known before. The priests of the water temples actually play a crucial role in water management. Previously, scholars had automatically assumed that priests were purely religious figures. But, as Steve learned, the priests see no distinction between the practical and the religious aspects of water management.
What I came to realize was that there were strong links between this temple and its priests and the farmers around the island. I found that all the way down the main rivers were dams, and that these controlled the irrigation water for one area. These areas are called subaks, and the farmers in the subaks have their own local temples and priests also devoted to the water goddess. This is the Masjeti Temple Erjuruk, which is the large water temple for the village of Sukawati. It sort of controls the rice fields around this village. It was here that I first began to understand something about the relationship between these temples and the way that they influence water control and irrigation. Now, Sukawati is down by the sea, so it's the last temple in the chain of temples that stretches down to the sea. It's the last temple, and therefore it gets the water which is at the end of the system. It's the tail end of the irrigation system. Therefore, how much water gets to this temple depends upon what happens just upstream. That is the cropping pattern. How much water is left over from the farmers upstream. So there has to be a coordination. And then those guys depend upon the amount of water they get from the next temple upstream. So in effect, what I found is that there is a coordinated system of temples which controls irrigation, which stretches from the very uppermost reaches of the rivers, the Os and the Patanu, down here to the sea at Sukawati.
Steve felt that any new development plans for Bali should be based on a firm understanding of the role of water temples in controlling irrigation. But he met tremendous resistance from the development agencies concerned, which had no idea of the importance or even the existence of the temple system. He was afraid that the temple system might not survive, especially if no one paid it any attention. He needed to find a way to explain the importance of the traditional temples to skeptical engineers and bankers. In frustration, he returned to the University of Southern California to seek a new way to tackle the problem.
Well, let me explain. Basically what happened was I was doing essentially straight anthropology here in Bali. You want to, in 1983, looking at how temples organize irrigation. And essentially I started with the religious aspects of the system. But,
that's when I became involved in the project. I thought we could use the techniques of computer simulation to explore the ecological basis of the water temple system.
Threatened, and I needed to understand the ecological dimensions better, so I enlisted my friend Jim Kramer, and we went back.
The conceptual framework for such a model was simple. We needed to simulate in the computer the interacting features of hydrology, rice growth, and the spread of pest populations. But clearly we needed much more data for such a model to work. So I went to Bali with Steve to look at the rice ecosystem, to collect more information, and to study both traditional rice growing methods and the new methods brought in by the Green Revolution. The Balinese have been growing traditional varieties of rice on these same terraces for at least 1,000 years. To sustain such high levels of production over long periods of time requires a tremendous amount of energy. In this system, a large part of that energy is provided by the natural aquatic community growing at the base of the rice plants. We can get an idea of just how productive this system is with this oxygen meter. High levels of oxygen indicate a very active community. Oh, look at this. Well, the Balinese like to eat these, and that emphasizes another important point. This natural community is producing eels, frogs, fish that the people take as part of their nutrition. Let them go. The long-term productivity of the rice paddy depends upon effective methods of pest control. If all the fields in a large area harvest at the same time, then afterwards there's nothing for the rice pests to eat, and pest populations decline. Ducks also play a role in pest control. They like to eat insects just as much as insects like the rice. But the ducks also like to eat young rice seedlings, so the ducks must leave the field before the next planting. Everything depends upon carefully coordinated timing.
In 1968, against the advice of my friends in the village of Bishaasitedi, I ascended the Mavaka River and contacted the Mishimishamabui Tedi, who had never before seen foreigners. The Bishasa Teddy, mortal enemies of the Mishimishimabui Teddy, were certain that they would kill me on the spot, or that lahalas, fabulous water serpents, would rise up out of the river and devour me. I survived both these hazards and returned to visit the Mishimishimabui Teddy every year until 1972. When I first went to live with the Yanomama, they wanted to know my name. I told them that it was Shagnon, or Shagnon, but they couldn't pronounce it. It sounded to them like their name for a pesky bee, Shanki, and that is what they decided to call me. To the Yanomama, I am the man called Bee. Visitors are supposed to recline with poise. Nanokawa, one of the hosts, grows impatient with his own customs and excitedly tries to converse with me. He is a leader in his own village, which broke away from Mishimishimabui Teddy recently. He has temporarily moved back into Mishimishimabui Teddy at the insistence of his several brothers-in-law. He and the local headman are closely related in the male line and do not get along well. They are competitors for women and leadership.
Show me how much butter. Show me how much butter. Ma, show me how much butter. Mama, could you want all kick and kick? Ah, kick. Show it. Show it. I check it in. What are your mother?
I reciprocate the continuing goodwill of the people with goods and services. They have grown to trust me and to recognize the effectiveness of the medicines I always bring for them. They expect me to cure the perennial eye infections of the children and babies, and although their language has no words for thank you, they can express their appreciation in other ways. A smile, a click of the tongue, or a gift of food. Wado Shewa and his brothers are an important faction in the village. No gift is unencumbered, and as he presents me with a basket of smoked meat and peach palm fruit, he whispers, my possessions are more important to the Mishimishimabui Teddy than my services, and we always exchange items. I do not really want the bows, arrows, spun cotton, and other things they offer me, but I cannot do my work without providing them with fish hooks, fish line, machetes, and knives. They would not accept me for very long unless I brought them these things. But if I gave them away freely, those who did not receive something would resent me, and all would be reminded of my stinginess. Therefore, we trade with each other. I have spent many delightful hours with Dedehewa, one of the most knowledgeable men I have known, and a true leader. He has told me about the details of village history, of ancient and current wars with other villages, and secrets of kinship and genealogy that bind the members of his village together. As he periodically reminded me, he possesses the truth. Dedehewa possesses the truth about the spirits and has tried to teach me his complex, rich, and sophisticated religion. To perform effectively as a religious leader, one must learn the behavior of all of the spirits, how they kill their enemies by destroying their souls with fire, and how mortals, in the form of Hekuda spirits, can kill other mortals by eating their souls, removing all trace of polluting body fat by licking their fingers clean. Shamans spend many hours attacking their enemies in distant villages. Since people, especially children, are dying regularly, this is proof that their spiritual aggression is effective. There is no antidote if the mu'amo portion of one's soul is devoured by enemies.
Oh, I see when I hit a tip. Oh, I see when I hit a tip. Come here. I see. Go to here. Sardine at an What do you do? Why white teddy? Why white teddy? Very good. Uno canotato.
Polaroid photographs are very convenient in my census work. Primitive society is defined and organized in large part by kinship ties, marriage practices, and descent from common ancestors. Genealogical data are fundamental for building a coherent picture of village composition and fissioning. It is therefore necessary to know and understand the variations in kinship terminology, the system of classifying and referring to relatives. Then I can show how all the members of each village are related to each other, and I can construct a genealogical diagram of the entire village.
What you gonna tell him? This is her daughter, and raiders from Iwihikirobiteti stole her daughter, and that's why she's crying. Amo Tower.
To study village fissioning, it is important to also show how the members of one village are related to people in other villages. Only then is it possible to find out how different kinship groups stayed together or divided when earlier villages fissioned.
Come on, Portacabaco.
It is also possible to discover the size of large lineages and their significance in the politics of each village.
Ted Bester has been studying a little neighborhood just south of central Tokyo.
There's nothing special about this street corner, nothing at all. except that this street marks a boundary that's significant to local residents because it marks the boundary between one chokai, or one neighborhood association, and another. So as I cross this street, I'm entering Miyamoto-cho, entering a community where 700 families live, and 700 families consider this to be their community. The main shopping street that runs through the middle of Miyamoto has about 30 or 40 shops now. In the 15 years or so since I first came to Miyamoto-cho, the number of shops keeps declining and the number of customers keeps declining. Shopkeepers here worry about the future, and many of them assume that they will be the last generation of shopkeepers to run businesses in this neighborhood. The kinds of stores one finds on a shopping street like the one that runs through Miyamoto deal mainly in daily goods, the sorts of things that one might run out to get when one's forgotten to bring them home from a larger supermarket. Most of the customers in these shops are local people, and the shopkeepers depend upon local drop-in trade. The Minagishi family runs a small bookshop in the middle of Miyamoto shopping street. It's the kind of bookshop that sells comics, popular magazines, and a few bestsellers. But I don't drop by to look at the latest publications. I drop by because the Minagishis are probably among my closest friends in the neighborhood, and it's almost impossible for me to visit them without being invited to go upstairs into their tiny living quarters above the shop. Megumi-san, the Minagishi's daughter, loves festivals. She loves to carry the mikoshi, and she studied the taiko, the big drum, for many years, and now always appears on the festival float as one of the people beating the drum. She's a college freshman, majoring in physical education, and her major interest is judo. One year, I was asked to help the leaders as they sought to protect the plate glass window of a particularly unpopular local merchant who they were afraid might suddenly find a mikoshi crashing through his front door. Over the years that I've been visiting Miyamoto and participating in the festival, lots of things have changed. Little things change from year to year. But most of those things are changes that even the residents don't really take notice of. What's important to them is that the festival itself continues. Bigger changes include new, expensive mikoshi, more elaborate costumes, but perhaps most important of all for the neighborhood, the increased participation of young people. Ando-san is the owner of a factory that processes kimono. He's lived in the neighborhood for about 30 years. He grew up in a remote province in northern Japan, was the 8th son of a farming family, came to Tokyo on a basketball scholarship, met the current Mrs. Ando, married, and became heir to Mrs. Ando's family's business. For several generations, the Ando family has run a business here, making kimonos, dyeing kimonos, and now, more recently, dry cleaning kimonos. But in addition to that, they play an important role in the neighborhood. Mr. Ando, for example, serves as the president of the local neighborhood association, and so is involved in most of the activities of the association and most local political activities and so forth. Grandmother Ando is now 83, but she still puts in a full day working in the factory, not only taking care of orders and checking the work, but also keeping an eye on her two grandchildren who scamper around the silk. Mrs. Ando was born in the neighborhood and has lived here all her life. She met Mr. Ando at college. They fell in love, decided to get married, and Mr. Ando was adopted to take over the family business. The business activities of the Ando family are many and varied. Originally, 100 years ago, the family started out as kimono dyers. In more recent times, they've developed a specialty embossing family crests on the formal kimono that Japanese wear at weddings, funerals, and other formal occasions. Even more recently, the business has expanded to include applying Scotch guard to kimono and dry cleaning them. In the last couple of years, Ando-san has expanded into an entirely new line of business. He has set up a company that imports frozen fish from Thailand for sale to restaurants and other companies in Tokyo. This takes him and his wife to Thailand 2 or 3 times a year to keep an eye on business operations there. The division of labor in the Ando household is a complex one. Ando, outgoing, friendly, gregarious, well-spoken, represents the company, represents the family to the outside world. But inside the factory, Mrs. Ando, his wife, is clearly in charge of everything. She knows the books, she knows the customers, she knows which bolt of silk is which, and exactly how much each one costs. In many ways, the Ando family is a very traditional Japanese family. It is involved as craftspeople working together in a household business. 4 generations of Andos live and work together. Grandmother, Mr. and Mrs. Ando, their eldest son, his bride, and their 2 daughters. And though the 2 daughters are too young to take active part in the business, everyone else works almost from morning to night, doing something to help the business along. And for a year or so, a few years back, 3 more members joined the Ando family and became, in some ways, parts of the daily lives of the Andos. Not just parts of the daily lives, but also close friends. A friendship which we've maintained over the years and which continues to bring me back again and again to visit the Andos.
皆さんの知り合いの中で、うちに来て仕事をしていただきたい、仕事をしてもいいというような方がいれば、ぜひご紹介をしていただきたいと思います。それで、そういう紹介をしていただいた方には、来年度からは一つ報奨金を出そうとこのように思います。それでもしない限り日本の人手不足は深刻であります。
Ando-san is a natural leader. He's easy with himself, easy with others, well-spoken, self-confident, friendly without being obsequious, a leader without being overbearing. His leadership qualities undoubtedly serve him well as a businessman, but perhaps they serve him even better as a leader of the neighborhood.
Donnie Recess is 19 minutes of research footage. It's really videotape field notes, not an edited ethnographic film this time. We see some Donnie children playing in a schoolyard at recess. This is an ethnographic puzzle for you to solve. We're talking about culture and how to find it. If we say that culture is ideas or schemas about behavior, here we see behavior and can work back to figure out what these Donnie children have in their minds. What are the rules of the game? We see girls wearing the hanging grass skirts, They're boys wearing penis guards or shorts, and occasionally a Javanese schoolteacher in white. The footage was shot in 1970. Today, probably all the Donny kids would be wearing cloth shirts and skirts and shorts. There are three artifacts we have to take into account. There's a long stick, actually bamboo reed, a long stick for hitting, a little short stick which is hit, and a depression in the ground made by just the kid rotates her heel in the ground, makes a little depression. Now we'll just look quietly for a moment. Look for regular repeated acts. Try to work out the rules so that you can predict what will happen next. Then I'll come back for some play-by-play hints. Or, better yet, you just turn off the sound, watch it once or twice, try to solve the puzzle yourself, and then watch it once more to listen to the narration, listen to my narration, and try to check how well you did. Okay, let's watch. You've begun to see some of the problems. First problem is to focus in, decide what it is you're trying to decode. You see boys running through, sometimes flocks of boys kicking a little ball, sort of impromptu soccer practice. Here they come from the left. Don't try to work out rules for that at this moment. You see, just beyond the playing area, you see the heads of boys over a ridge, and they're doing something. Don't try to work out the rules for that. Far beyond, in the background, on the valley floor, you see sometimes pillars of smoke where adults are working the gardens, burning off garden trash. Don't try to include that for the moment. Look at the foreground, and you'll see there's a girl in the kind of left middle, boy on the right, and they are playing this flip the stick game. Focus in on that. Pretty soon you'll see that there are several games going on at once, and they are using overlapping areas. And sometimes you'll see a little bit of territoriality, a little bit of defense of territory. For the most part, you'll see them just playing, kind of ignoring each other. Pick out one person, like this, the girl right in the middle. There are two girls now. Now, the girl in the middle, bending over, and now she's flipping the little stick out. The girl out there kicks a little bit, picks it up, throws it at the big stick, and then the girl hits the big stick. The girl out there throws it in. The girl drags the big stick along the ground and now is rotating the big stick over. Now she's at the depression again. Whoops, got bumped. She put the little stick sticking out over the depression, hit the free end, it went up in the air, and she tried to hit it, and she didn't hit it. Okay, so they change places. Now she picks it up. Now we're in close, it's going to be a lot easier. She flicks it out. What is the girl out there? The younger girl. She picks up the stick. Okay. What happened? We are shifting now really to a different game. Let's watch this girl. Now, what's she gonna do? She holds the little stick upright, hits it out. We have to figure out who's she playing with. Aha, that girl throws it in. And she did something, and now she's... Okay, now she's at the depression again. Flicks it up, hits it in the air, draws a line, over and over, rolling it over and over, back to the depression, puts the little stick in the depression, across the depression. Okay, now let me fade out for another minute and give you a chance to try to make some hypotheses about what's going to happen next and why what happened. Okay. There's a lot of noise back there with that big gang of soccer players. First thing to figure out is that there are 3 cycles, and each cycle the girl with the stick does a different thing. Now she's bending over, she's going the third cycle. She tries to flip the stick up in the air and hit it in the air. She missed. So now they're changing places. The girl way off at the left there does the first cycle. That's just to flick the stick out, lay the big stick across the depression. The girl out there picks up the little stick and tries to hit the big out of the way. Big stick. Second cycle, she holds it upright. Now there's an argument. Whoa, what's going on here? Even though these girls have, we can assume they share culture, that is, they have the same ideas, the same schema, there's still a lot of leeway for negotiation, for cheating, for challenging, and so forth. Okay, lays the big stick across. Second cycle, she holds it upright, hits it out. The girl out there is going to throw it in, and the other girl is trying to defend the depression. She was able to hit it out. She now draws the line and comes back, flicking it over and over. Now she's going to flick it up in the air and hit it. She got it out, but not very far. It's more than one stick length, big stick length, so she goes back to cycle 1. Girl picks it up, she puts the big stick in upright, and the girl hits the big stick. So now they change places, and the other girl starts, of course, with cycle 1. Flicks the stick out, the girl throws, misses the big stick. Cycle 2, hold the little stick upright and hit it out, and then be ready to defend the depression. The girl's going to throw it in. She hit it out that far. She draws a line and then measures, and it is more than one stick length, so she goes to the third one. Hits the stick up into the air and tries to hit it in the air. Whoops. She didn't get it very far. Okay, cycle 1 again. It flips out. We've got a little discussion out there as to who is actually playing this game anyway. One of the kinds of things, after you figure out the rules of the game, one of the kinds of things you can look for is, what does the style of play tell about Dani culture? This game came from Java. Actually, it's widely known across East and Southeast, South Asia. Something very like it is played in Scandinavia, something very like it is played in some parts of the American South. Each place, it takes on the style of the local culture. When it came from Java, it was a very kind of rigid, rule-bound game, reflecting Javanese culture. The Dani culture is quite different from Java. We've got to get these boys out of here, and we can continue there. What hypotheses can you make about kind of the style or ethos of Dani culture from looking at the way these children are playing? They're already fully competent members of Dani culture. They've been speaking fluent Dani for years. They have been, you know, fully Dani. There are esoteric things they don't know about Dani culture, but they are fully Dani at this point. And they took this Javanese game, taught to them by one of the Javanese school teachers. They took that and they transformed it into something very Dani. So what can you say about Dani culture from looking at the way they play? Think about how you played games in your grade school schoolyard, and there are some major differences. If by now you're pretty confident about the rules for each of the 3 cycles of this game, there are a few refinements we can look at. In the second cycle and the third cycle, okay, we're right now, the girl on the left, first cycle, flips it out, puts a big stick across, the girl out there throws it in, tries to hit the big stick, misses the big stick. We go to the second cycle, holds it upright, flicks it out, it's out there somewhere, throws it in and tries to defend, hits it out, and then draws a line squared away with the depression. And now, if you were to have said that this looks like measuring, you'd be pretty close. In the Javanese game, it is measuring, and that's how you count up score. These Dani children at that time knew, basically, there was no scorekeeping in any original Dani game. They're at school learning Indonesian, but they really haven't learned the principle of counting and numbers and so forth. They know some some Indonesian number words, and when they roll it over, if you could hear the soundtrack, you'd hear them shouting out Indonesian number words, but not in any particular order. In other words, they've picked up the form of the game, even to the extent of using Indonesian number words, but they're not using them to get a total, to keep score, or anything like that. This is, as you certainly have picked up very casual, relaxed, and really not very competitive. It is competitive in the sense that they try to switch places. The girl out there tries to succeed in such a way that she can become the hitter. But in terms of actually having winners and losers, we don't see that. You could also start looking at the way these Dani children move and walk and look for gestures, particularly what the girls do when they miss. That is to say, when the hitter has to change places with the girl out there. There are often some very characteristic body and arm gestures. It's too bad we don't have better resolution. We can't see their facial expressions. It would be wonderful if we could also have a transcription of exactly what each child is saying. This, as bad as its quality is, though, this allows us to see very nicely a lot of the more macro elements of the interaction. Okay, by now you should have a good idea of what this little portion of Dani culture is, what these Dani children have in their minds, their schema or schemas about this little bit of cultural activity. You should also have an idea about how these Dani children have taken this Javanese game, transformed it into something very Dani.
She's 70 years old. Her lata began when she was 62.
Speak. How long have you been like this? A long time. 8 years now. It began when my mother died. I was very sad. I was sitting quietly like this, thinking my mother is gone. Someone came from behind. He grabbed me and said, "What's up?" I was startled. My body trembled like this. My mind went blank. When my body stopped trembling, he teased me again. I picked up a stick and hit him. I couldn't think. What could I know? Later, wherever I went, people liked to watch me. They thought I was pretending. They poked me over and over until I became ill.
The man in the suit is Pawang Luman, an indigenous healer. His wife, Layut Ali, is a lata.
At first, one is merely startled. One sees a centipede, or a snake, or coconut leaf falls, and one is startled. Then someone sees that happen. Later, when he sees me again, perhaps he will poke me in the ribs. After a while, something can happen.
Itulah macam orang tak ada latah.
Take an ordinary person like Betsy here. If she's startled,
Semangat dia tu dah tu terbang lah.
whenever you see her, you poke her in the ribs.
Bila tuan nampak mem cocok. Lama-lama itu dia punya akal pun macam satu.
After a while, she'll get very flustered.
Dia cakap apa-apa.
She'll say whatever comes out. If you tell her to dance, she'll dance. If you poke her in the ribs whenever you see her, she will do this too. That's what it's like.
This is Sidang Hussein Dalip. He's the village headman.
Tapi kalau orang cocok Datuk Sidang.
Yeah.
If someone poked you in the ribs every day, would you become a latah or not?
Kalau cocok sama-sama
If it were done face to face like this, I think not. But if it were done from behind and over, I think I'd become a latah too. But not if I caught sight of the person doing it. But if a person is latah, one can put her into a latah state even from the front. Because they are so easily startled? Yes. If we don't poke them in the ribs, they don't become latah. If we keep poking a normal person like that, he will become a latah. It doesn't take long. 5 days poking over and over. Little by little, a person gets quite flustered. Not everyone is a latah, right? Only certain ones. Like me, I'm a latah. Like Cik Ma, she's a latah. In the village here, only certain ones. Not everyone, no. If everyone were like that, it would be like the whole world was crazy.
As Che Layut points out, not everyone becomes a latah. Many of the villagers think that a tendency to latah runs in families. Nenek Kamsiatna thinks so, but she's not quite sure.
Once it starts, it becomes hereditary. If a mother is latah, her children will be too. Still, my mother was latah and I and my children aren't. Sometimes a mother is latah and her children are too. Grandmother is latah. My mother was latah, but I'm not. My brothers and sisters aren't either.
The role of heredity in latah, if any, is uncertain. One thing that is certain is that the overwhelming majority of latahs are women. Villagers say this is because women have less samangat, or soul substance, than men. They also point out that it's safer to startle women.
Many more women than men are latah. There aren't many men. Women's semangat is a bit weaker than men's. Men have rather stronger semangat. Men's semangat is a bit stronger because even their physical strength is greater than women's. Because if a man becomes latah, when people poke him suddenly in the ribs, he might become strong. So people fear he's striking back. But people don't fear women much because they're weaker. People are afraid to poke and startle men. Even other men don't like to do it to each other. It's women who like to poke each other. When they're sitting around, someone pokes someone, someone else pokes someone else. Women are shy about poking men.
Shy or afraid?
Shy? Well, shy and afraid too.
Tok Muhammad Hassan Rahmat is the only man in the village who admits to being Lata, though the villagers told us of 2 others. Ever since he was young, Tok Muhammad Hassan has been teaching Bersilat, the Malay art of self-defense. When he's startled, he assumes Bersilat poses.
Many of Ukhone's songs were about the environment he lived in. He sang about important plants and animals, and about the constant problem of finding water. During autumn and winter, the only water in the central Kalahari Desert is contained in roots, in the rumen of large antelopes, and in the most valued and abundant aquifer, Sama melons. Ukhone composed several songs about Sama melons, and learned others from a Bakalahari musician named Joro. One of the Tsama melon songs Ukhone composed was called Tamtsoro, in praise of the Tsama melon. From Joro, Ukhone learned a song called Melon Soup. Ukhone composed a song about a small nocturnal antelope called the diker, which men try to snare.
Uchone said the music imitated the diker running. Striking the bow was like the sound of the diker's feet in the ground. When Uchone's chin was on the bowstring, the diker was leaping. Snares are placed on the small paths the diker uses every night. But sometimes the diker gnaws through the grass cord and sets itself free. One of the songs Uchone learned from Joro was about khan, the small cucumbers with soft spikes that ripen late and retain their water for a month or longer after the tsama melons have dried. Uchone composed the song Bitter Melons when Oikwe, one of the old women who lived with him, planted tsama melons for the first time. Oikwe learned about planting from the Bakalahari, a Bantu people, who told her she must save seed and plant new melons each year because wild melons growing on cultivated land are bitter. Bitter Melons was probably Uchone's favorite composition.
Men do the heavy garden work, turning the sod with fire-hardened digging sticks, while women gather and burn the dry garden trash. A new strain of white pigs introduced by the Dutch was highly prized by the Dani. Pigs are turned out on fallow gardens to root and to contribute their droppings to the fertility of the soil. The ditches have silted in since the area was last gardened, and now the men must clean them out. These ditches form a labyrinthine network throughout the garden area. During wet spells, they drain water from the sweet potato beds and catch the fertile topsoil. During dry periods, the ditches distribute water from a few streams which flow through the gardens. An informal cooperative work crew composed of friends and neighbors throws the fertile ditch mud onto the garden beds before the planting. The men often break their work to smoke cigarettes or to eat cold baked sweet potatoes which they have brought for snacks. Now the women take over. Sweet potatoes are grown from vine cuttings taken from other more advanced garden plots. At any one time, a single household will maintain several plots in different areas and at different stages of maturity. Ekabwe, one of Umwe's 4 wives, wears the married woman's skirt, some 30 meters of braided cord held tightly around her hips.
Paranoatedi has been raided 25 times in the last 16 months by several of its neighbors. 10 people have been killed. Surrounded by hostile neighbors, the Paranoatedi need allies desperately. They have therefore invited the some 125 people of Mahikototedi, who live a day's walk to their west, to a feast. The 2 villages had been allies until a few years ago, when they fought over the abduction of a Paranoatedi woman. They hope to renew the alliance through feasting and trading, knowing that the Mahikototedi also need allies. Many of the Paranoatedi still regard the Mahikototedi as enemies. They are fearful, as are their guests, because they know that any feast can end in violence through either treachery or through the sudden flaring of tempers. Though sponsor of the feast and a headman, Krinhisiwa cannot order people to work. He leads by example both in cleaning the village and in providing the largest share of the food. While his younger kinsmen cook the plantain soup and peach palm fruit, Krinhisiwa rests and calculates the distribution of food. His hunters have done so poorly that he must make the meat go further than it should. Asiawa, son of the Mahikototedi headman, is the first visitor to enter. His co-villagers wait outside the gate. In a formal chant, Asiawa accepts the invitation on behalf of his father's village. Kringhi Siwa gives him a gourd of hot plantain soup, which he must drink in one draught. After a polite wait, he is given a basket of vegetables and smoked meat, which he will share with his co-villagers as they finish decorating themselves. Many will wear white buzzard down to indicate their peaceful intentions. Meanwhile, the hosts finish preparing trade goods. Frequently traded items include arrows, arrow points, clay pots, hammocks, and hallucinogenic drugs. The trade goods help bind the alliance by creating obligations which the visitors must discharge at a return feast. Excitement grows as the feast nears. Groups of hosts and guests shout back and forth. At last, the visitors signal that they are ready to dance, and the hosts retire. The visitors enter in pairs and display themselves before the hosts, making ritualized threats. After each visitor has performed, they enter en masse, circle the village, parade to the center, and assume their visitors' pose. The visitors' wives, carrying possessions in large pack baskets, join their husbands inside the village. Women are rather inconspicuous in political events such as these. Members of Kringhi Siwa's group excitedly circle the visitors. Then each invites a visitor to his hammock. The visitors remain motionless in the hammocks while Kringhi Siwa's dancers try to intimidate them. Everyone knows that this is the point when treacherous hosts could murder the guests. But the guests must not show any emotion or fear, for true men, Yanomama, are fierce. The dancing ends at dusk. All night long, pairs of hosts and guests chant together, asking for and promising goods. The next morning, the primary headmen of each village, Kringhi Siwa's bearded brother and Asiawa's father, chant with one another, endorsing the political event they had largely ignored until now. The rest of the morning is spent visiting, planning a conjoint raid, and examining each other's possessions. Lakuiwa wants some of the bamboo arrow points belonging to Asiawa's younger brother. This is significant, since Asiawa shot Lakuiwa on a raid last year. The giving and receiving of goods is an assurance of their friendship. Later in the day, the visitors gather before Kringhi Siwa's house to trade. Tempers are on edge. Many of the Paranoteri are not enthusiastic about entertaining old enemies. Accusations of stinginess and broken promises punctuate the event. The visitors ask for tobacco, hammocks, and dogs. The hosts are reluctant to give, fearing the visitors will not reciprocate, even though there is a strong obligation to repay each item with a different one at a later time. Finally, visitors begin to leave. Those who remain behind make last-minute exchanges, giving, for example, a palmwood bow for a palmwood bow. The value of the item is irrelevant, since the purpose of the exchange is to create mutual obligation. Kringhi Siwa's bearded brother is distressed that the visitors claimed his dog. He will demand something valuable at the next feast, and as a visitor, will not easily be refused.
Nhưng phải nhận rằng chẳng có mấy bộ phim miêu tả nhân dân ăn ra sao, nhân dân ở ra sao, nhân dân đi lại sinh sống như thế nào, và nhất là nhân dân nghĩ ngợi, bàn tán những gì. Nhân dân, hai tiếng thật thiêng liêng. Chẳng thế mà nhân dân có mặt ở khắp nơi. Về văn hóa thì có nghệ sĩ nhân dân, hiệu sách nhân dân, giáo viên nhân dân, nhà hát nhân dân, báo nhân dân. Ở những cơ quan nghiêm mật thì có hội đồng nhân dân, ủy ban nhân dân, tòa án nhân dân, viện kiểm soát nhân dân, công an nhân dân, quân đội nhân dân. Một thời, Chúng ta đã có những lời ca về nhân dân thực sự xúc động lòng người. Vì nhân dân quên mình, vì nhân dân hy sinh. Anh em ơi, vì nhân dân quên mình. Nhiều khẩu hiệu đã trở thành tâm niệm của một lớp người phục vụ nhân dân, đầy tớ nhân dân, và cao hơn nữa là hiếu với dân, chung với đảng với nước thì đã rõ. Còn nội dung cụ thể của hiếu với dân theo anh là gì?
Cái này tôi phải nghĩ đi. Nhưng anh hỏi làm gì nhỉ?
Cứ nghĩ như con có hiếu với cha chẳng hạn. Chăm sóc cha lúc tuổi già, phụng dưỡng cha lúc ốm đau, thờ phụng cha khi qua đời, kế tục những mong mỏi hoài bão của cha còn dang dở. Hiếu phải đi đôi với thảo. Không thể đẩy cha mẹ ra lề đường kiếm sống, mà lại cứ tự xưng rằng tôi là đứa con có hiếu. Còn như đạt tới sự hiếu thảo với nhân dân thì ý nghĩa và nhân quả của nó còn to lớn hơn nhiều. Cụ Hồ có căn dặn rằng bất kỳ ở địa vị nào, làm công tác gì, chúng ta đều là đầy tớ của nhân dân. Cơm chúng ta ăn, áo chúng ta mặc, vật liệu chúng ta dùng đều là mồ hôi nước mắt của nhân dân mà ra. Vì vậy, chúng ta phải đền bù xứng đáng cho nhân dân. Người có lương tâm đều hiểu, không phải lúc nào và ở đâu nhân dân cũng đã được đền bù xứng đáng. Có thể vì vậy mà ông Lò Gạch đã đối xử với chúng tôi, những người của nhà nước, chưa được mặn mà tử tế cho lắm. Chào anh. Theo anh thế nào là sự tử tế?
Chịu. Thế nào là sự tử tế bây giờ là khó lắm đấy.
Ý chị thế nào ạ?
Có được phép nói thật không ạ?
Xin mời.
Vâng, người mình được coi là tử tế thì theo tôi trên thực tế là người mình nhờ vào một cái gì đó về quyền lực hay là vật chất. Chữ tử tế thì thường chỉ ở miệng những người có tuổi hoặc những người hơi xưa. Bây giờ thì bận lắm, mấy ai có thời gian để luận bàn những chuyện xa xôi ấy.
Xung quanh ta có nhiều người tử tế lắm chứ. Những người tử tế là người nhân hậu, thương yêu con người, ham làm điều thiện, lo việc công ích chứ không vì chức vụ hay bổng lộc. Theo tôi, những người bất hạnh, người cô đơn, người nghèo khó và nhất là người trung thực, họ chính là những người mong mỏi có sự tử tế hơn ai cả.
Đây là một câu hỏi lẩm cẩm. Tử tế à? Các ông thử nghĩ mà xem. Người cần sự cứu giúp thì gặp kẻ muốn ban ơn, thành sự tử tế. Người xa cơ lỡ vận, gặp kẻ cần tiếng thơm để toát tính những cái việc xa hơn, cũng thành sự tử tế. Tử tế làm cái gì đó tế nhị, có đi có lại.
Tử tế, các đồng chí làm phim thân mến nè, hai cái chữ đó là gốc từ chữ Hán. Chữ tứ là việc nhỏ nhất, mà tế là cái điều nhỏ nhất. Hai chữ tử tế cộng chung lại nó có nghĩa rằng là cẩn thận từ cái việc nhỏ nhất. Vì chữ tử tế chúng ta hiểu lâu ngày nó sai đi, nó khác đi. Cái tử tế không thể, tử tế thật sự đó, không thể có tiền mà mua được, không thể mong ước mà có được. Nó phải qua cái học hành, cái rèn luyện, cái giữ gìn, cái kế thừa mà có. Tử tế là bông hoa thơm, bông hoa đẹp của tình người.
Ăn ở với nhau tử tế là lẽ thường tình, là niềm an ủi của người đời. Chỉ có đồ hủi mới ăn ở với nhau chẳng ra gì.
Đồ hủi, xấu như hủi, bẩn như hủi, lười như hủi, không dây với hủi, cũng là để hiểu những người mắc bệnh phong mà người đời vẫn gọi là người hủi ăn ở với nhau ra sao. Chúng tôi đã gặp vài ba cảnh đời thiết nghĩ cũng nên kể lại. Cháu có tên là Tú Anh, nhưng bà bảo cái tên Tú Anh nó Hà Nội quá. Mình thì người nhà quê. Bố cháu là Triện, bà gọi cháu là Triền. Thằng Triền một thời ít bạn, vì tiếng đồn khắp vùng mẹ nó là người hủi. Mẹ nó là người hủi thì bố nó bỏ đi luôn. Mẹ nó, chị Nguyễn Thị Hằng, phải bỏ quê lang thang bờ bụi, kiếm được đồng tiền bát gạo, đêm đêm chị lần mò mang về cho nó. Nỗi đau thể xác và nhất là sự sỉ nhục về tinh thần đã đẩy chị tới một quyết định phải tự vẫn. Nhưng còn thằng Chiên phải có một nếp nhà trước khi mẹ nó qua đời. Vậy là đêm đêm chị lần về, và bằng hai bàn tay cùi cụt co quắp không đủ ngón đốt đã đóng 1.800.000 viên gạch. Hỡi những người lành mạnh và tử tế, 1.800.000 viên gạch, đêm lạnh buốt và đau đớn. Khi ngôi nhà đã dần hình thành, mẹ thằng Chiền, một người Hồi, còn có một ước vọng rất thơ mộng là viết để lại cho con những dòng thơ tâm sự. Sổ thơ của người Hồi có cả ảnh và thơ của blog. Chữ viết của người Hồi có bao giờ thẳng hàng: túp lều nát rùng mình trong gió rét, chiếc nôi nghèo run rẩy giữa đêm đông, bố bỏ đi biệt xứ chẳng một lời, thế là hết, chẳng còn ai chăm sóc con ư. Tội nghiệp cho Tú Anh cái tên trong sáng, như chim non bé bỏng mồ côi. Mẹ nghĩ phải gắng sống vì con, gắng làm cho con một nếp nhà xinh. Đó là nếp nhà mẹ chịu nắng sương, chịu cái rét giá của đêm dài cô quạnh. Tạo hóa bao giờ cũng có nhân có quả. Mẹ thằng Chiền đã được các thầy thuốc tận tình cứu chữa và đã qua khỏi. Nhiều lần dắt con đi bên bờ sông Trà Lý, nhắc đến tên các thầy thuốc chạy chữa cho mình, chị đã khóc.
Nhiều đồng nghiệp của tôi và tôi nghĩ ngợi, thế là mình đã dành gần toàn bộ cuộc đời cho nghề thầy thuốc. Trải qua một thời gian dài, rất dài, chúng tôi mới chiêm nghiệm được một điều rằng để thấu hiểu nỗi đau của con người không phải là một việc dễ dàng gì.
Lần tìm chuyện về những người Phong cũng nên đến trại điều trị Phong Quy Hòa. Ở đây chúng tôi gặp mặt đông đảo các thầy thuốc. Câu hỏi của chúng tôi: thưa các thầy thuốc, ai là người tận tâm chạy chữa, chia sẻ với người Phong ạ? Các bà sơ, chuyện đó phải kể đến các bà sơ. Các thầy thuốc, trong đó có những thầy thuốc từ khi rời ghế trường y cho đến bây giờ đã 2 thứ tóc, làm việc ở các trại Phong, đều trả lời chúng tôi như vậy.
People everywhere bring order to their existence by dividing the world into such categories as male and female, clean and polluted, holy and profane. To its residents, the village of Kipseli is not just a chaotic conglomeration of things. Each item and location has a definition that places it in harmony with the total system. The villagers have a set of notions that tells them how and when to utilize the objects that make up their lives. There is a correct way to give attention to the sacred and a correct place to put a plow. The road to Kipseli ends at the village square, which serves as a community center. Here, men loaf about or weigh the harvest, but no adult women spend much time inside the square. Women's activities predominate inside the village courtyards and buildings during the day. While women are working at home, men spend their time farming and hunting in the surrounds, a distinct part of the village that encircles the rest of Kipseli. Men own most of the rich and fertile fields, and they prefer not to have women around as they work their land. All the village houses have female names, and Kipselians say they are owned by women. Mothers and daughters always live in the same neighborhood, and in fact, every mother gives her own home to her eldest daughter. Houses themselves parallel the village in having male and female sections. The inner parlor, or saloni, is the man's province. Mostly it's locked tight. The family keeps its best furniture in it to be used for important guests, or for such auspicious events as baptisms, weddings, and male name days. The kitchen lacks the formality and neatness of the saloni. It is the center of household activity, a place where wives cook and take care of the children. Men spend little time in kitchens. During the morning, the courtyard is alive with woman's work. In the late afternoon, husbands take over the courtyard to fix tools and drink coffee with their friends. Women may still remain in the area, but they have lost control of it as their personal territory. Churches in Kipseli are divided into male and female sections even more rigidly than the houses. Inside the church, men and women are strictly segregated. Men always stand closer to the altar. In fact, often women can't see the ceremony at all. Many men don't actually attend the service,
Yet every Sunday they congregate in the church courtyard. This is a male province, and here they sit smoking and talking. Church-going men take their time as they stop to greet their friends. Women seem to feel uncomfortable as they pass quickly through the courtyard. There are some places that are forbidden to members of a given sex. Taverns are supposed to be only for men. But women often sneak through the back door to gather in the kitchen.
When the men came back with the meat and the insides of the animal and the intestines and the heart, they would distribute it to all of us. We would pound it and cook it. Women from other bands would take a share in their corroses. We would have meat to dry and fat to spare to rub on ourselves. When the season changed and the rain came, it was best of all. Some rains were heavy and strong, really scary. We called them kato, male rain. Some rains were even and quiet. That was the female rain that filled the land with water. When I was little, I just played with my girlfriends. I hadn't taken my husband, Gunda. But Gunda's mother and father were talking about our marriage. People were talking about giving me to Gunda. I used to play at his mother's house, but once they talked of marriage, I stopped. They gave him a new spear and made jokes which I didn't think were funny. We didn't even like to play with little boys. Boys always wanted us to play getting married. They were after us. They'd steal our ball and we'd have to chase them. We'd say, "You're boys and we don't want you. We only want to be girls playing together. We don't want you boys bothering us all the time." But my family prepared me for marriage anyway. They washed me and they put fat on and painted me so I would never get thin. My cousin Samko said, "Hey, that's your husband over there." I said, "That red face? Why are you saying that's my husband?" And when my mother-in-law greeted me with, "Hey, my little in-law," I said, "In-laws, I don't need." You can't imagine how fearful I was of that man, Gunda. They brought him. His friends brought him to the marriage house our mothers had made for us. I thought, what have people done to me? My heart doesn't want this. But my cousin and my sister came to me and covered me so the sunlight wouldn't fall on me and make me thin. And they carried me so my feet wouldn't touch the ground, because that could make a girl thin too when she's getting married. It was on an evening in the early winter when they brought me to the marriage hut. Naturally, I didn't sleep with Gunda that night. I went home and slept with my mother. And of course, Gunda and I didn't live together for many, many rains.
I and Gunda were married in 1953 when she was 8 and he was 13. By 1958, Gunda had begun to live with Ngai and hunt for her parents in bride service.
When we finally had to live together, Gunda and I, we slept with my bottom near his head near my bottom, so there was everything between us. I refused him. I said in my heart, give me someone else. This Gunda I don't want. Maybe it wasn't Gunda himself I rejected. I just didn't want a husband. I thought that when I was grown up, I would find another husband, somebody I myself had chosen. I refused to sleep with Gunda or even play with him under the blanket. My heart refused it. When we girls get our breasts and begin to grow, our mothers praise us. Hey, they say, look at you showing. Now you're doing what women do. They encourage us about being women. We tease each other and joke about what's happening to each other and compare. But we're scared. Many of us are scared about sleeping with men and having babies. Because of the pain and danger, women die. My friend Shadley was afraid of childbirth. Her stomach was lying there. I didn't know what the matter was, but I thought, that woman is terrified of the childbirth. My uncle Twigwe and her brother went to her to lay on hands in medicine. It was as if she was dying. My mother said, don't go there. A woman who's going to have her very first child shouldn't be afraid of the childbirth. Girls like you who haven't given birth mustn't watch a woman who fears.